Good morning, students of Level 7 of Falcon House Grammar School, Campus 9. This is Mashaal here. Now, today we're basically going to be reviewing the chapter that we have already done, which is chapter number 7, Settlements. Now, since we have covered the topics, our syllabus, we will now be reviewing the chapters that we have done. Alright, so settlements from page number 70. Let's talk about it. Now, settlements, what was settlement? What is settlement? In general terms, settlement is basically a place where people live and carry out their activities. Karachi, for example, is a settlement because people live here and carry out their activities. Now, for example, Sahara Desert will not be a settlement. Why? Because people do not live there, neither do they carry out their activities. All right. So this is what a settlement is. Now, what basically influences a settlement or what affects a settlement? Now, people willing to settle into a place will be basically considering certain factors. Now, what are those certain factors that they will be taking into account? They will be physical and economic factors. So let's talk about physical factors first. Physical factors include relief, soil, presence of river, and climate. So let's go over them one by one. What does relief mean? Relief basically means the type of land. People prefer to live in flat lands, okay, level lands, so that they can basically commute from one place to another in a comfortable manner. For example, you can see that in Pakistan as well. Karachi is a flat land. That's why people live here. A majority of people live here. Now, if you compare that to a mountainous area such as northern areas, there isn't much of population there. Why? Because the land there is very, what you can say, it's uneven. Okay, there's a high ground, then there's a low ground, there's a high ground, so it basically is very difficult for people to commute from one place to another. So generally speaking, people prefer to live in places that are flat. Okay, soil, we know that soil plays a major factor in people settling into a place. Why? Because the more fertile the soil is, the more larger the population there would be. An example here is basically Indus Plain in Pakistan. Indus Plain basically is in Sindh and Punjab, and that is where the majority of our population lives. Okay, because the soil is fertile, so more people will be willing to settle there so that they can grow crops, they can live there, and they can carry out their, they can actually, grow crops and then they can consume it themselves, or they can sell it to others. So people prefer to live in places which actually have a fertile soil, okay, so that they can actually have some sort of food for themselves. Now, presence of river. Historically speaking, a good number of cities have basically been established near the river. Why? Because we know if it is closer to a river, then the land will be fertile, so we can actually grow crops. Another point will be that if there's a presence of river, so we can use that water from the river for our domestic uses. And third will be that because there's a river, you can use ships and you can commute from one place to another. So these are the reasons why presence of river is important for settlement. A great number of cities, as I already told you, have been established near the rivers. Now, for example, River Nile, Cairo is built on River Nile. Bangkok was built near the river Chao Phraya. London was built near the river Thames. Cologne was built near river Rhine. And there's multiple other examples of it. I'm sure in Pakistan many such cities have been established near the river, just so that it makes it easier for them to do certain activities. Finally, climate. Now, people prefer to live in places that have a moderate climate. If you're given an opportunity to either live in extremely cold or hot place, or you live in a place which has a moderate climate, so all of you would prefer to live in places which have a moderate climate. Okay, and that is what people look to do. So that is why you will not see a huge number of people living in extremely cold or hot places. Okay, so that's also one of the factors that affect a settlement. Economic factors. Now then again, Karachi, people prefer to live in places where they actually have employment opportunities, where they can basically make a decent living for themselves. A place which has no economic opportunity, people will tend to move away from it. Balochistan is a very viable option. There aren't enough employment opportunities, so people do not live there as much, and they actually move to other areas. Karachi, on the other hand, has a lot of economic opportunities, so therefore people move in from other areas to Karachi, to the city. Okay, so these are the factors that affect a settlement. Now, what are the types of settlement? Well, there are two types of settlement. They're either rural settlement, urban settlement. Now, rural settlement is basically a village. What are the kind of businesses that take place over there? Not very diverse. It's usually forestry. There's usually agriculture, farming, fishing, all that. As compared to urban settlement, where the types of business basically include banking, trading, other commercial activities. Now, in rural settlements, it's very sparsely populated. Not many people live there. It's very sparsely populated. People are scattered here and there. When you talk about urban settlement, there's a large chunk of people living there, and also the density is high because people live close by because there isn't enough supply of land. Okay, and finally we talk about the services. Well, the services are pretty basic in a rural settlement. There aren't enough technology and all that. But when you talk about urban settlement, the technology, the kind of services available, they are top notch, are very modern. You can see Karachi, you can buy anything on the tip of your finger. You can basically buy food, you can order food online, you can order many things online. Now, these things you cannot do in a rural settlement. So these are the differences between a rural and a urban settlement. Now, when you talk about urban settlement, it can basically be divided into 4 zones. It's called functional zones. What are those 4 zones? CBD, which is called Central Business District, Inner City Zone, Suburb, and Rural Fringe. Now, what are these? We'll be discussing that in the next video. I hope you've understood everything that we have done here. If you have any questions, any concerns, you can always get back to me. All right. Thank you then. Take care. Allah Hafiz.